My name is Claire Ledevick, and this is my video essay on gender, power, and performance, analyzing Sex in the City and you through gender theory. So let's hop right into it. So before diving into the shows, I wanted to kind of set the stage with some key concepts that we learned from the lectures. We learned that gender isn't something that we were born knowing, it's actually performative, which means that it's something that we do through our clothing, the clothes that we wear, our behavior, and even our body language. We also learn that gender exists in a world of inequality and privilege. For example, being male often comes with societal advantages that are not earned but are assumed. And the lecture also highlighted that the idea that men act and women appear. So men are usually shown as the decision makers, and they make the decisions, and they're usually the ones that are calling the shots, especially in media, while women are positioned to be looked at in movies, TV shows, media. And we learned that in Kimmel's 4 Rules of Masculinity and through Tough Guys 2, the documentary, where it explains that men are socialized to hide emotion, they're supposed to show toughness and use dominance to perform masculinity. And this framework is what I'll use to analyze Sex and the City and you, the show You, not you, literally. Okay, so in the first episode of Sex and the City, femininity is mainly expressed through appearance, fashion, and relationships, and the women perform gender by being very stylish and talking about dating and presenting themselves in a very socially desirable way. And even though the show features these kind of independent women, it still frames them through the male gaze. So, as we learned in the lecture, television often sexualizes women and it centers their value on their appearance or their relationships. That gives them status and value. And for example, early scenes show men staring at the women on the street while the camera frames them as objects of attention. And this just really reinforces the idea that even empowered women, like the women that we see in this show, they're very independent, even them, they are still performing traditional femininity to fit societal expectations. So while Sex in the City mixes independence with this style and charm and fun, they're living it up in the city and they're doing what they want, it reinforces beauty standards and it really suggests that women's worth is truly tied to how they look and who they date. So in the show You, masculinity is shown through the character Joe Goldberg, and he really embodies like this toxic masculinity and entitlement. We see that in the show he uses a lot of surveillance and control to kind of assert his dominance over Beck, which really reflects the male gaze taken to an extreme. And we learned in the lecture, it explained that the male emotional suppression cycle is where men are socialized to hide vulnerability and express emotion through toughness or aggression. And I think that Joe is the prime extreme example of this. He never shows weakness. He believes he knows what's best, and he uses manipulation or even violence to achieve control. And I really feel like this connects to Kimmel's 4 Rules of Masculinity and the ideas from the documentary Tough Guys 2. Instead of glamorizing masculinity, the show You shows the harmful effects of these expectations placed on men, which teaches viewers to question how society constructs male behavior. So when comparing the two shows, both really highlight gender as performance. I think that in Sex and the City, women perform femininity through appearance and relationships, and in the show You, Joe performs masculinity through control, through emotional suppression and entitlement, and I think that both are really shaped by the gaze. Women are positioned to be looked at, and men are positioned to look, sometimes in very extreme ways, as we see in the show You. yeah, I feel like these are very great examples of both of those. And Sex and the City isn't overtly harmful, but it definitely reinforces traditional beauty standards under the disguise of empowerment. And the show You, however, criticizes toxic masculinity and reveals the consequences of this entitlement and suppression in the character Joe. So my takeaway is that television doesn't just reflect gender, I feel like it actually teaches it. And Sex and the City shows us what women are expected to do, while the show You warns us about the dangers of toxic masculinity. And I feel like together they really illustrate how society constructs and enforces gender norms. And these are my references. Thank you so much for watching.